our sync. Is everybody good to go?
We're all good.
Are you okay to go? All right, so we're interested in this case of Andre Barbosa, and we noticed that your name was on this sheet that was hanging on the front door, Curia Vaticano, Court of Chancery, Universal Post Office. What is this all about, and what was your connection to Andre?
The connection to Andre is he's a member of the Divine Providence. The rest of the document is about me being the keeper of the seal of St. Peter. And the authority.
What do you mean by that?
The seal of St. Peter is the authority under which the chair of Peter operates.
You're talking about the Pope.
Correct. Correct.
Or so you're saying that you are kind of like the Pope?
I'm saying I hold the key to the chair of St. Peter.
How does one come to hold the key to the chair of St. Peter?
It was surrendered to me by Pope Benedict. He sent it to me on June 5th, 2010.
He sent it to you here in the U.S.? He just sent
Right.
it? Why would he do that?
Came down there. There's the entire world is a trust, and the Pope or the Vatican is the primary trustee of the global trust, the entire world. And I had documented the breach of trust of the trustees down through the system, and on their failure to allow people to redeem their estates out of the bankruptcy. The United States receivership has ended, and is our property that's been held as collateral, so we have a right to redeem. When the trustees refused to allow us to, that became a breach of trust. And when I documented that and went up the ladder and claimed those offices for the breach, finally it came to, when I got to the office of the Postmaster General of North America, the Vatican acknowledged me as a divine spirit having a human experience, and sent me the key to the treasuries for the redemption of the estates.
So, with respect, everything you said deeply confused me.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. Are you saying that you have some sort of papal authority here in North America?
In the globe.
In the globe?
Correct.
Why you?
I don't know, because it was divinely destined, I guess. I'm just a farm boy. I grew up on a farm. I've got a high school education, and I've had a life where I've learned who I am, that I am the divine spirit having a human experience, and was able to break through the illusion of commerce and all that entails. And I mean, I was as deeply surprised as you are now. And it took me 3 years to figure out what it meant and how to operate with the seal. I've had it confirmed and verified by half a dozen people throughout the world. It absolutely is over 850-year-old seal of St. Peter. And it is the authority under which the chair of St. Peter operates.
You have the seal?
Mm-hmm.
You keep it on you all the time?
I wouldn't be very smart security if I let everybody in America know I keep it on me.
So this is the seal that was sent to you by the Pope?
Correct.
And what can you do with this?
It authorizes me to operate from the chair of St. Peter. The Pope, in the past, has been able to speak through the chair of St. Peter. When he speaks through the chair of St. Peter, he speaks infallibly. He is the leader of the Vatican Church, of the Catholic Church, and the primary trustee of the entire world. This makes me the primary trustee of the world. Pope Francis is the leader of the Catholic Church.
So, as the primary trustee of the entire world, does that mean you could just tell everybody what to do, that you have some sort of power?
It means that I am capable of documenting, and that's basically from everybody else, documenting the breach of trust in the trustees today and compelling performance to make the change. And what I'm able to do is say, we've documented the breach of trust of the way the trust is being operated today. It's being operated and has been for thousands of years under the laws of conquest and war. And it's my belief and my intent to move this world into operating in a world of peace, where we can have peace and prosperity and abundance. We know that there's enough of resources in this world that nobody should ever have to go without anything.
But forgive me because I'm still confused. When you talk about trust and commerce, I don't actually know what you mean, and what it actually entails to have this seal.
Well, they say the Pope is the primary trustee, or was the primary trustee of the entire world.
What does that mean, trustee?
Okay, God, or Creator, gave man dominion over all things to hold in trust. Okay, you can't own anything because you can't own a home because if you can't take that home with you.
Once you die.
Correct. Okay, or if you get in a spaceship and you go, you can't take that with you. Everything is held in trust. All right, we don't own anything. Everything is owned by the trust, by the Vatican, and we have a divine right to use that property. That was divinely given to us. We have a right to use that, but it's still maintained within the trust.
So now he said that you're the global trustee?
Correct.
Does that mean you kind of temporarily own the planet?
No, there is no ownership. The trust still owns everything. I simply am the primary controller of the trust.
So you have primary control of the Earth?
Correct.
The whole Earth?
Correct.
That seems like a lot of power.
I understand. It is. And a lot of responsibility.
When the rubber hits the road, what does that really mean?
It means I can now give orders or issue decrees that the Vatican and the Roman Curia must follow and must trickle down and will trickle down throughout the courts, throughout the entire governments of the world.
So if you said right now, I don't like the current Pope, he should be fired, would they have to do that?
That's not something I would do.
But if you did?
I'm not sure that that would qualify because it has to be a breach of trust. Because I don't like him is not a breach of trust. That is not something I have control over. They have a fiduciary duty to the trust, to the Creator, and to us as divine living beneficiaries to operate the trust in a certain manner. And if they don't, that becomes a breach of trust, and now I have the authority to call them on that and communicate to them that this is a breach, now you must provide the cure.
So let's just get back to Andre for a second. Did you support his moving into this mansion?
I didn't know anything about it, to be quite honest, until after it hit the air. He was a member, and I had no idea they were doing this. But I can tell you what he is doing, or what he did do, was absolutely lawful. And I do support what he did do.
It's lawful to move into a house that's
Absolutely.
not yours and say, this is mine.
Correct. And that is why, because the adverse possession laws were created, and they're created in every state, and they were created for the specific purpose of, there is this huge glut of bank-owned vacant properties in the country. They are all sitting there deteriorating. They are causing a downgrade in the value of the community. They are magnets for crime. All right? These laws were created to take these out of the hands of the bank that is allowing them to deteriorate, put them in the hands of somebody who will invest and improve the property and pay the taxes. Once you do that for whatever stuff of the period of time it is, and it's different in every state, you now own it. But the bank's not paying the taxes, they're not keeping them up, and they're allowing these to deteriorate and cause economic harm to the community.
But if it's lawful, why is it the case that time and time again, when people move into these mansions, they're getting arrested and kicked out?
Well, that's a good question, and that's because they're holding the trial in the media. And it's you and your kind that is the fault of that. Because they go, and what happened with Andre? Bank of America went to the press and vilified him and didn't do any research and never said a word about, hey, he did months and months and months of research and ensured that he followed the law absolutely to a T and moved in there. He took the documents which the county or the state issued, he filled them out, took them in, got them accepted, paid the filing fee, took those papers to the locksmith, and the locksmith says, yep, This absolutely positively proves you are the owner of this home and change the law.
But is this the way the law was really designed to work?
Absolutely.
So that multi-million-dollar mansion can be moved into by a 23-year-old kid from another country and he could just declare that it's his?
Yes, that is the intent. Now, was it a smart move on Andre's part? No, because he has no business being in a $2.4 million home. He should have gone and got him a $150,000 home that more fit his needs, and then he would have been doing the right thing.
So you support the notion, but not the exact tactics he took?
Correct. I support it because that is the lawful, peaceful way of returning our neighborhoods and our communities back to health.
How would you feel, though, if you were a resident of Golden Harbor Drive in Boca Raton and you had worked your whole life to have a house in this beautiful little cul-de-sac and some kid moved in, put up a sign and said, "This thing's mine"?
Would have made a difference to that neighborhood if he wasn't a 23-year-old kid with dregs? Probably yes.
I think
that is the problem they had with it.
Well, I think also their problem with it, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, is that he wasn't spending any money. I mean, maybe he was going to pay the taxes, but this is a home that everybody else in the block, this is a place where everybody else in the block is paying millions of dollars to own their home. This kid just moved in and said,
so it's not right because I wasn't able to do it? If you're able to, and I didn't have the courage or the knowledge to take advantage of a legal situation, does that make me wrong? No, it does not. He followed the law absolutely to a T, and for the same purpose that the law was designed for.
Well, now, adverse possession is in the law. You're correct about that. But in order to exercise that, you do have to break the law. You have to trespass.
No, he did not.
How
because he went and he filed the documents first, and those documents, once you file that $19 fee, those documents are your proof that you own it. And that's what he gave to the locksmith for the first time he walked on the property, who has never owned the property before that time.
But it doesn't give you title. All it says is that you don't own it until 7 years are up.
What does the law say?
It says that you don't own it until 7 years are up.
Okay, but it makes you the lawful owner to take possession of it during that 7 years.
And at any point during that 7 years, the owner, the lawful owner, can kick you out.
Through a process, through a legal process, not by trying you in the media and sending the jackbooted thugs to come to kick you out. There's a lawful process for them to do that, and they were the criminals. They failed to follow the rule, and he did.
You described the action to boot him out of the house as a war crime.
Absolutely.
How is it
He's in there in peace. And they come in with, and he's got lawful documents where he followed a lawful process. Now, if it had been a mortgage, been the lawful process, and they'd come kick him out, it'd been unlawful in your mind, right? These are still documents that prove he had possession, that he had the right to be in there and to possess the house. So that's important.
So there are going to be a lot of people who watch this story and say, hey, people are taking over mansions. I should do that. Would you say this is a good idea for people to do?
I think it is a good idea for people to take advantage of a lawful, peaceful way to take these deteriorating homes away from the banks and putting back into use where they can be improved and improve the neighborhood.
But time and again, prosecutors and courts are saying, actually, this is against the law. You can't just take a mansion.
No, they're not saying against the law.
They're not? People are going to jail for this.
But it is within the law. How can they say that here's the law, and it's right there in their face, and then lock them up and say, no, you violated the law? They can't have it both ways.
Well,
they are kicking him out, and they're doing these things, but it doesn't mean it's right. When they're following the law, they should be treated as if they're following the law. If the law is not what they're doing, what they want, then they should change that.
Well, what's happening in these cases time and again, as I understand it, and I've taken a pretty good look at this, is that people are moving into homes, and then the owners, the banks, are saying, look, we own this thing, we don't want this person there, which is also within their right. And then the person gets removed.
But then they have a process for doing that, and that is not by immediately bringing in the SWAT team.
Well, trespassing is...
But it's not trespassing whenever you have the lawful documents there to prove you own it.
We spent some time talking to a Harvard law professor. He's Harvard, right? Harvard law professor, specializes in real estate and adverse possession. We had him walk us through this thing, and he agreed with you that adverse possession is in the law, but he also said that the first step in this process involves breaking the law. You walk onto somebody else's property and declare yours, that is actually trespassing. You're going to have to run that risk if you're going to go down this road.
But I disagree. Because of the way Andre did it, when he went and he got the documents and filed them all first and had all the documents before he ever went on and changed the locks. That's there. Where is the trespass in that?
So at the end of the day, he's the wrong party here.
Correct. I agree. He wasn't smart, and he probably created his own problem here, but he was not wrong. He followed the law. He went through the steps, and he studied and researched the thing. He followed the law to a T. He was attempting to put money into it and improve the property, but the city was preventing him from doing that.
Let me go back to this Harvard law professor. So
he went to Harvard, but he teaches at Miami.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
So let me
Florida State.
Let me go back to this law professor. We gave the law professor your legal briefs, and we asked for his reaction, and he laughed and called them a little bit nutty.
And that's fine.
But doesn't that give you any doubt in the validity of the arguments you're making?
No, because it comes from an attorney. No, I am getting reaction from the Pope, from the Vatican, the Crown, and other people down from my nutty briefs and decrees. Are they just as nutty as I? If I am getting reaction, if I'm getting the Crown, the Pope, and others to follow my decrees, who's nutty?
Which crown are you referring to?
The Queen and the Crown. There's two different things. There's the Queen and there's the Crown, which is the banking system.
So if I was to call up the Queen and call up the Pope, they would say you're legit?
Call the Pope and ask him to deny it. I guarantee you, he will never deny it.
So that's a little bit different than saying, yeah, this guy.
Do you actually believe that if the Pope, we got the Jesuit generals who have killed millions of people throughout history, do you think if I'm not supposed to be using this, I'd still be here? Would you be talking to me? Come on, let's be real about this.
How did you get into this stuff?
I've studied this for my entire life. I came here. This is my mission in life. That's why I'm here.
You were quoted in an AP article saying you stumbled upon some of this stuff while in prison. Is that true?
Yeah, that's when I first became interested in some of it, yes.
And I know this is a controversial term, but the overarching term that often gets used is sovereign citizenship. What's your view on that?
I think it's an oxymoron. How are you going to be sovereign and a citizen? If you're a citizen, you're part of something. You can't be both. It's a label that the government puts on us to vilify us. I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm a man. I am divine being, the divine spirit having a human experience. Period.
The federal government has repeatedly said that people who hold beliefs similar to yours are domestic terrorists.
Yes, I've heard that.
What's your view on that?
Well, I mean, they can say all they want. I've got declarations out to say that I am absolutely at peace.
Nonetheless,
how can they call me a terrorist? What are my terrorist acts? Because I call and expose them on their corruption and their fraud? Is that the attack? Is that the terrorist activity? Well, if that's the case, then we'll have the same old that we've had for the last 1,000 years. And that is no transparency and plenty of corruption.
We should say, for the record, nobody's accusing you of being a terrorist. Having said that, there are people who, for lack of a better term, are in the sovereign citizen movement who have shot and killed police officers, been arrested for pretty heinous crimes. What's your view on that?
I don't support it at all. I don't support the militia. I haven't owned a gun or a weapon since I was 14 or 15 or 16 years old, whenever I gave up even my hunting guns, because I don't believe in killing. I don't believe, and I've believed for many, many years, and I've said this publicly, that we can change the system peacefully. That I believe that the pen is mightier than the sword, and I've proven that. I don't agree with any kind of violence whatsoever. None.
Why would people sign up for your group? What is it that you're teaching people how to do?
How to go to peace.
What does that mean?
Everything in our reality is a reflection of what's within. If we grew up and were programmed in this war, mentality of conquest and war. All right, we speak the language of war. I'm going in to fight for my rights. You know, I'm going in to fight for what's mine. Well, why should we have to fight for what's ours? Why can't we go in and peacefully negotiate for what's ours? And that's what I teach. Stop the fighting. Stop the fighting and go to peace.
So that's what you teach on the sort of grand overview level, but you also teach people some pretty practical things like adverse possession.
Now you're wrong.
I'm wrong about that?
I do not teach adverse possession. I never have taught an adverse possession. You asked me if I supported what Andre did.
Mm-hmm.
That was the question, and that's what I responded to. I don't teach it.
So how did they know to do this if not through you?
It was one of my members, a family of members, who took this and studied this on their own and did this. And like I say, I had no knowledge of it at all until it hit the press.
And it's not even within your curriculum.
Correct.
I
don't teach it.
So what?
I know about it. I study it, and I'm all for taking all of these deteriorating homes and putting families in them, and I'm for doing that in a lawful and peaceful way. But I don't believe that adverse possession is, for me, the way to do it.
What are the practical things then that you teach your followers and members?
We teach people how to stop thinking and talking in the language of war, how to stop going to war, how to deal with a court case peacefully, how to deal with a traffic ticket peacefully. That's what we teach people, how to go to peace, how to stop the war.
But you said that already, but I mean, you also teach them how to get out of this.
Out of this war.
Well, also you don't have driver's licenses and license plates the way most of us do, et cetera, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about that?
All of those things are involved in the world of commerce, all right? And this world of commerce is what created the military-industrial complex, and which created all of this war and conquest mentality. The Vatican became the trustee of the world through conquest. All right? We know in history, you can see where the entire world has been conquered through peace. In the name of peace. I mean, but they've conquered the world multiple times through peace. That is the war that we're trying to get out of. It is that mentality of being the military-industrial complex, which is tied into the world of commerce, which we teach people to extricate them from. How do you get out if the world of commerce and the world of war is all tied in together? The only way to get out of that is to get out of the commerce and go back into the private, and that's what we teach people to do.
So what does that mean on a super practical level, going out of the commerce and into the private? What does that mean? What are the logistical steps that one takes in order to do that?
Well, first of all, you become a member of our membership, okay, our association. We do documents, and what it is there is a series of trusts that have been created from your birth certificate, all right, which enslave us. There's 3 of them, there's a set of them. We go in and we object to to each one of those, to the creation of those. We go in and we reestablish our living status because in the world of commerce, they assume that we are all deceased and that we are operating a trust, an estate. So we reestablish our living status, and then we reestablish our declaration of peace. We no longer consent to participating in the war. We no longer, there's created 2 mighty armies here. There's the Vatican and there's the Church of England, all right, the Crown. And they both created these legal fiction armies to come after the people, to fight amongst each other, and the people have been identified as being enemies of the estate and cannon fodder for these 2 mighty legal fiction armies. So what we are doing is saying, I'm at peace. I no longer want to have war with you. That war was with somebody, with our forefathers. You conquered them. It has nothing to do with me, and I no longer consent to operate under the laws of war and conflict trust. I now choose to live under the laws of peace.
Do you think the United States government is legitimate?
Absolutely, I think the United States government is legitimate. We the people are the United States government. We're the government of America.
Do you think the government that's operating in Washington, D.C. right now is legitimate?
For sure they are. They exist, do they not? I mean, you know,
Do you think
the mafia is legitimate. They exist.
Do you think they're similar?
Well, yeah, I don't believe but I believe they also have their purpose.
Do you believe that...
I don't believe they're the evil ones. I don't believe I believe they're here for a purpose. I think they've served their purpose for humankind, and many of them believe the same way now. The Jesuit generals in the Vatican, they know that they have now served their purpose, and now it is time for change.
Do you think people need to pay taxes?
We all pay taxes. Now, do we need to pay all the taxes that are being charged today? No.
What about
Because sales taxes, it is proven, sales taxes alone cover all the infrastructure and expansion of infrastructure that we need in the United States.
What about...
And income taxes and all that is simply graft, which goes straight to the Federal Reserve Bank.
So do you pay your income tax?
I haven't paid income taxes in 26 years because I'm not an employee. I'm not involved in Congress.
Do you have your own license?
No, I don't.
License plate?
No.
If you were to go fishing, would you get a fishing license?
No.
So you don't deal with the government?
Correct.
And you teach other people how to do the same thing?
Correct. How to operate in the private and in peace. We have a choice. If they are the military-industrial complex, that's what they do. They fight wars. They've had wars against the people, wars against crime, wars against drugs, wars against cancer. And what has been the result of those? Increased drug use, increased crime, increased cancer. When you have a war and you war against something, you attract that to you. Our war on terrorism has attracted terror to us. And in the other flip side of the coin is peace begets peace.
But isn't the world you're describing where, you know, people take over mansions, they don't need to have a driver's license, pay their income taxes, isn't that an anarchic world?
Absolutely not. It's merely a world where every man is responsible for his own actions.
That's anarchy.
No. Anarchy is with no rules. Anarchy is no rules.
So you think there should be rules?
There are rules.
Who sets the rules?
There's the divine rules. They're natural rules.
So the
I
Bible,
shall not harm you.
Ten Commandments.
That's pretty good. Well, not necessarily. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person.
But you've got this...
That is true. I am still not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. And there's two different things.
So what rules would you be following?
The rules of nature. I shall not harm another man. I shall leave this earth in a better place than when I took it, than I used it. Those are some of the foundational rules. If every man, woman, and child could simply live and never harm another person, wouldn't it be a wonderful world?
Agreed.
And it's that simple.
I have one last question for me, and then Matt and Rob may have some questions to follow up, but I just want to give you a chance to respond to this. Inevitably, there are going to be people who see this interview and say, this guy is talking about some weird stuff. What is your response to that?
I've heard somebody tell me a definition of weird once. Weird means thinking outside the box. And with that definition, I'm okay with being called weird.
Rob, did I miss anything?
Yeah, here, I got a couple things to quote
Okay.
from.
You've been very
How you
patient.
doing on time, you know?
What?
Oh, it's
29 minutes on this.
Let's go and change it out.
Okay.
And I need
Paul,
to ask,
Richard?
what is your perspective on this? What are you trying to make me look like a weird one? Or are you trying to just show the truth?
The latter. Well, we're interested primarily interested in the case in Florida,
what do you
because
have
it's
here?
a story. Within that, I think it's interesting to show this wasn't just I think it's very interesting to point out that Andre's decision was not some isolated case. It's actually connected to a larger thing.
You're on
That's
the
right.
I thought.
Right.
I'm sorry, Rob, you're confusing.
I know, leave that one, 'cause these are quotes about the government that he uses.
You want to know what?
what it is, and
No, we already went over that.
We did, that was the first question. But specifically, what about maybe there's
Well, that's something you have to ask Andre about, because I don't promote this, I don't teach it, so I can't tell you why Andre posted that. I'm sure maybe he wanted to express his change in status.
So what did he do, print out a bunch of documents from your website?
You would have to ask him what he did.
I see. Are you in touch with him?
I just threw a couple emails, that's it.
Really?
I've got another member that is down there right close to him, who communicates with him to make sure he's, he's okay, and it doesn't get run over by the courts, but, no, we didn't,
Is that Mr. Murray?
no, it's not.
So, but you did file something in one of his,
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we know that
You know what, then I think.
Bank of America cannot
Yeah, yeah.
pass title, they do not have lawful
Guys, can we
title.
roll plays right now?
Yeah, we sure
can.
They don't have a legitimate title to these homes. There's a neighbor in this particular house, one of the neighbors attempted for over a year to contact Bank of America and buy that home. Bank of America, over a year, and would not even return a call, and would not attempt to sell that home. So now, what are they supposed to do? Continue to allow that property to deteriorate until Bank of America decides, why does Bank of America not want to sell it? Because they're holding that as collateral, they've got the full boat as collateral, and if they sell that 2.4 mil for 1.4, what it's really worth now, they just lost $2.4 million worth of collateral for 1.4 million. So they lose less money by allowing the thing to deteriorate than they do by selling it.
Except for they've just sold it.
Well, yeah, and why? Because all the attention on it. Can you blame them?
So you think Andre did them a favor in that?
Oh, I think yes, indeed. I think they're gonna, I think Andre opened a lot of doors. I think he opened a lot of, you're here, you're there, because of what Andre did. Now maybe the people really see that there's some truth there.